Well, hello and welcome back to my channel. I am filming this on my iPad in case I have to edit it because I have not taken the time to learn any editing software on my laptop yet. I better do that. So if anybody can recommend editing software for a Windows computer, please leave it in the comments. My name is Robin Loves Reading, and my name is Robin Taylor, but my channel name was Robin Loves Reading. I changed it to Robin Loves Reading and All the Things because I wanted to begin live streaming, maybe do some whip and chats and other things, and I wasn't going to just focus on my blog for this channel. I wanted to focus on my hobbies, such as you see in front of me: diamond painting, jigsaw puzzles, planning. I did a lot of planning videos last year. I'd like to get back to that. But why am I here today? What am I doing here right now? Well, let's get some drills out while I talk. I'm here because it's Mrs. We call her Mrs. Coffee, but it's Mrs. Crochet and Coffee Crafter. I'm sorry for flubbing up the channel name. I just want to straighten up my iPad a little bit. She has a whip and chat challenge for an hour, and I wanted to, well, let's put it like this. I thought about participating, but I talked myself out of it as many times as I thought about doing it. But the deadline, I believe, is the 15th, so I thought yesterday afternoon, why not just do it? Why not just do it? So here I am. So I will put Mrs. Coffee's channel name and link in the description box below, and let's get to it. So these whip and chats are basically designed to be getting to know us as content creators. And so in order for you to know me, I thought I would obviously tell you, let's see, I'm trying to move my mic wire. Okay, there we go. I thought I would tell you about me as a person, some of the things that I like about my life, some of the things I don't like about my life. So as I mentioned, my name is Robin. That's more than evident. A lot of you know me in several communities. The two communities that I am in first and foremost are the coloring community and also the book community. Not so much booktube because I'm not involved in a lot of those politics, but I am a very, very busy book reviewer and book blogger. As a matter of fact, I'm a professional book reviewer. So let me tell you a little bit about each before I tell you about myself, my family, and things of that nature. Okay. Let's see. Let's talk about coloring first, since I'm very active in the coloring community. Even though I haven't colored in a while, but I do have something I'm going to be joining in on in February, so you'll see me coloring again very, very soon. I started coloring maybe 7 or 8 years ago. I was in the hospital. I was bored. I saw some coloring pages and some very cheap coloring pencils, and I literally just grabbed a few, and for the first time in my adult life, I colored through maybe 5 or 6 pages. And then when I got home, I kept looking at those pages, which are so cheesy and tacky. Yes, I still have them. But yet I kind of felt like I was bitten by a bug. And so I wanted to buy some coloring things. I wasn't on any Facebook groups or obviously YouTube, nothing that would even let me know what to buy. So I went to Amazon and I bought some Colorsoft pencils and Prismacolor pencils. And Colorsoft is made by a company called Derwent. And I bought the Prismacolor Premier pencils. I bought the set of 150. And I bought other sets like Prang, which was a disaster. Art Loft, I think it's Art Loft. Those were a disaster. But anyway, and then I bought a few coloring books. I started off with Dover and Creative Haven because I found out that Dover, I think every week has 4 free coloring pages, and we've always had a printer. And so I was printing pages and, coloring them. And then I started collecting some Dover coloring books and Creative Haven coloring books. And I like shapes and designs and patterns. I have OCD, so I like order. So a lot of my early coloring books were tessellations, patterns, paisleys, all of that. So I bought a bunch of those. I found out about a couple other companies and I started buying books from them. And so my first 100 or 200 coloring pages were just beautiful designs, just countless. And I have 2 4-inch binders that are completely full. I mean, when I filled the first one up, I had to buy a second one. And then eventually I started buying coloring books that were of a better quality. And so at this stage of the game, even though I don't color much at all, I have about 230 coloring books, maybe more, probably more, because I'm always buying. And I have about 35 sets of coloring pencils. Basically, I have pretty much everything but the Albert Dürer, if that simplifies things. What I don't have are the Albert Dürers, the Lyra, Rembrandt, and the Erogeton. So if we minus those, I have all the other premium sets. That's how many pencil sets. And then I have lots of budget sets. And I did just buy a budget set of Soul Colors. They'll be here, I think, tomorrow. And I think there's 180 in that. And I recently bought the Derwent Light Fast, but I bought the 72 set. So last night I bought the remaining 28 colors, and I bought the remaining 28 colors from Cult Pens last night. I think it came up to like $80 US for those 28 colors. So that's my coloring side. Even though I ran into and I'm going to get more into this later, but I ran into something some time ago, about a year to 2 years ago, that made me lose my drive for coloring. But I do have favorite artists, and so whenever they would come out with a book, even though I wasn't coloring, I always bought their books. And I'm talking about Hannah Carlson, Maria Trollet, Tim Jeffs. If they had something, I definitely bought it, even though I wasn't coloring. And if a new coloring pencil set came out, I bought that too. And by buying those, I was always buying cases. I bought markers. So I keep telling myself I'm going to get back into it. And that's why I'm staying abreast of the latest and the greatest when it comes to things in the coloring world. Now, I also said that one of the other communities or environments I'm in is the book community. And I became a book blogger and reviewer on NetGalley and my own blog in 2018. And I've been extremely active. I think I've got over 1,200 blog posts and in 2 years. So I'm extremely active on my blog. I read a lot. Let's see, in 2018 when I started reviewing, I read 339 books or something like that, maybe more, maybe less. And then I jumped up to 539 books in, I hate saying I've got to work on that. I read 539 books in 2019, and then in 2018, I read 539 books. And last year, I read 636 books, and that was, to me, pretty exceptional because we're reaching the wax paper, so those are not going there. I reached a really bad bipolar low towards the end of the year. I had some really serious problems on social media with certain individuals, and the triggers left me reeling, and so I didn't read much. The only things that I read in November and December were blog tour titles, which I read, wrote those reviews, published those reviews, and other than that, I didn't do anything. And then when January was approaching, I kept considering my Goodreads goal and getting back at my pace when it came to reading again. So I set my Goodreads goal the exact same way that I set it in 2019. In 2020, it was 500 books. So I went to Goodreads and I set it for 500 books for 2021, knowing full well that having not read hardly at all in November and December, that it was going to be a reach, but it was also, not only was going to be a reach, but it was going to be a way for me to get out of the doldrums and to get back to what I love doing. So today is January 11th or 12th, I don't even know, and I've read 13 books. So I guess I'm getting back on track, because I am about to start book number 14 for January. So I'm getting my groove back when it comes to that. I only have maybe 3 or 4 blog posts up this month, but hey, I'm getting there. So I belong to a lot of book-related groups on Facebook, and just a few YouTube booktube channels, because there's a lot of political stuff, not so much in the world of politics, but in the I don't know, it's just a weird environment in booktube, and I don't want to be associated with that environment too much. So I haven't really done much on my channel with my blog at all, but that's going to change in 2020. Maybe not in January, but this 12 months, so give me time to get back into the groove of things. Another thing that I resumed as far as a hobby is concerned when I stopped coloring so much was jigsaw puzzles. And I started that last year at the end of 2019. And to this date, even though I haven't done a puzzle in about 2 months, I've done about 55 puzzles. And I generally do 1,000-piece puzzles. So I've done quite a few puzzles. I do have one going. I just have to get back to it. So since I decided that puzzles was going to be one of my newest hobbies, I started buying a lot of puzzles. So I have a whole wall in my bedroom that's nothing but jigsaw puzzles. Let's see. So that's a little bit about my hobbies. What am I doing right now? I am diamond painting, and I'm working on Mad Kitty, and this is from Diamond Art Club. And I started, now let me tell you about my diamond painting. And no, I haven't talked about myself, my family, or anything like that yet, but I'll get to that. Diamond painting. I was watching Shalene one day, who is the Coloring Book Nook, and on her channel was Laura, Anxiety Art Adventures, and they were talking about diamond painting. So that kind of raised my interest, and I bought one from Amazon, and I let it sit in the box or packaging for an entire year. I did break it out at one point, spent 20 minutes with it, decided nope, wasn't for me, so back in the packaging it went, and as I said, a year rolled by. And then again, watching Shalene, she was diamond painting on one of her live streams, and I thought, I'm just going to do this for 2 hours, and that's that. So I pulled everything out, and that was mid-October, and now it is mid-January, or just about mid-January, not quite, but just about. And I have, I think, 49 diamond paintings. I'm currently working on diamond paintings numbers 8 through 10. I have OCD and ADHD, so I cannot just work on one diamond painting. So I have 3 big projects going on. I have Mad Kitty, which I'm doing right now in front of you. And I think this one is, what is Mad Kitty? I'm not even sure the dimensions, like 71 by 51 or something like that. I'm also working on Sitara, another Diamond Art Club, and that's 41 by 61 by 41 centimeters. And I'm more than 2/3 of the way done with that, just like I'm more than 2/3 of the way done with this one. And then I'm also working on Mountain Castle, which admittedly I haven't touched in about a week and a half. And that one is 98 by 71. And I've just done a roll with that, which is about 3 squares, 3.5 squares or so. So I got to get back to that. So diamond painting has pretty much become I won't say my number one hobby, because reading still takes precedence over everything, but diamond painting is definitely at the top of my game as far as what I really, really love to do. Okay, so that's all about my hobbies and why my channel name was recently addended. I recently added all the things to my channel name because of the puzzles and the hobbies. I didn't really mention much about planning, but I do use planners every day, and I love that too. So, about myself, I am 60 years old. I got married in 1982, so in March I will be married for 39 years. My husband's name is Tony. He's, I think, 67. And we have 6 adult children, ages 24 to 37, 3 girls, and they're 24, 27, I believe, and then 37, and then my boys are 31. I'm gonna get this wrong. 31, 30. Okay, my boys are 36, 34, and 32. I'm probably off a year with each kid, but just forgive me for that. And they have given me 10 wonderful grandchildren, although one sadly is no longer with us. So I have 9 healthy, lovely, lovely grandchildren. And all but one of my children have children. So my youngest, who is 24, is the only one who is not a mom yet. And so I'm sure as the years go by, the Taylor family will continue to grow. I met my husband at the Kingdom Hall. I am a Jehovah's Witness, and I moved to Chicago when I was 18 years old. And I remember sitting, and standing across from me was this beautiful, beautiful young man who just kept staring in my direction. But I was extremely shy. And although I am very active on social media, when you get me in the company of people, I clam up. So I never approached him, and he is also an introvert, so he really never approached me. Well, we never really dated or anything. We did date a couple times, but it never worked out. And then the 3rd time we dated, he decided, okay, I can't play this game anymore. Let's get married. I mean, it was a little bit more romantic than that. And 6 weeks later, we got married. And then 2 years later, we had our first child, and our family grew from there. Let's see. I do want to touch a little bit on my mental health issues and my physical health issues. I've been homebound. I'm disabled and homebound. I became disabled technically by, as far as what insurance would call disabled, in 1991. And I've been homebound for years, although that's getting more and more debatable, because if Ariana, who is my daughter with 2 grandchildren, needs me, I'm there. So And when we had the Kingdom Hall before the pandemic, and now our meetings are on Zoom, I would be able to attend my meetings. So my homebound definition was getting less and less, but with COVID, it's getting more and more these days. My physical challenges are basically my back. I've had a host of back surgeries, 6 to be exact, or 5. Oh, goodness gracious, I don't even remember, 5 or 6. And I was scheduled to have another back surgery just before the pandemic. But the wheels on that one really slowed down with all the indecisiveness about the safetyness of surgery, with all the risks of what was going on and the uncertainty about what the pandemic was bringing to the world. Meanwhile, I have another issue which does require frequent surgeries, pandemic or no, and that's my esophagus. It closes, so a couple times a year I have to have a procedure done. It's a dilation procedure, and to be quite honest with you, the pandemic has put me in such a state of fear that I have not had my procedures in 2020, and now we're in 2021. So I can no longer eat. I haven't been able to eat in months. I do eat, but a meal will take me 2 to 3 hours because my esophagus closes. So I have gotten to the point where I just kind of don't need to eat unless my sugar drops. I have reactive hypoglycemia, so that's kind of my only discipline about forcing myself to eat. Because of this, I've lost maybe 140 pounds in about a year. And so I just got to get over my fear of the what ifs with the pandemic and get in touch with my surgeon and have a procedure so I can start eating again. Okay, so that I've got other things like fibromyalgia, osteoarthritis. I have bursitis in both of my hips, problems with my hands, things like that. My mental health. I have bipolar disorder, PTSD, major depression, and anxiety. And admittedly, I have way more lows than highs, and I'm very easily triggered. And I've kind of been in a bad way for months. And every time it gets a little brighter, something else happens and it gets very dark again. So Mad Kitty, for example, would have been done, but for the last week and a half, I've pretty much been in bed. But I've been sneaking out of my bed for an hour or two and working on a square here and there. So I am making a lot of progress with Mad Kitty. And I do have my friends to thank because they're telling me to get out of my bed. And I also want to thank my husband because he's been paying attention to the number of hours that I'm sleeping every day and the fact that I'm not eating, and he's thinking that it's more than my esophagus that's preventing me from eating. He's wondering if it's my depression. And so he's been really very strongly encouraging as far as helping me to get out of this rut that I'm in now. So that's a little bit about my physical health and my mental health. Now, let's answer some questions that I will present you with that are about me so that you can get to know me a little bit more. And yes, I'm keeping an eye on the clock. These videos, I believe, should be about an hour. So that's why I am doing this on my iPad versus my camera in case I talk too much and I have to edit some of it out. So anyway, I talked about my favorite hobbies, and to reiterate, they are reading, coloring, diamond painting, jigsaw puzzles, and I did not mention that I crocheted a blanket for my newest granddaughter, Olivia. All I need to do is put a border on it. It's been done for weeks, but again, I went into a big time depression, so I didn't touch the blanket. And now Olivia is moving from a bassinet to a crib like just yesterday, not like a long time. So I've got to get that blanket to her because now she has a crib. And so Anyway, so crocheting would be considered a favorite hobby. But the funny thing is, I had not crocheted in 40 years. But before I stopped crocheting, I used to crochet all the time. So I think that will be part of my routine once I decide on my next project or pattern. Another thing that kind of was a favorite hobby of mine was playing games like Animal Crossing, chess, Jeopardy, Trivial Pursuit, stuff like that on my Nintendo Switch. But I haven't touched my Switch in weeks, so I've got to get back to that. I guess another hobby kind of would be my favorite TV shows that I like to watch, but there's just no time to watch TV. There's too many things going on in my life. So here's a question that I can ask and answer. What really makes me angry? Okay. What really makes me angry, I'll talk about others first. What really makes me angry is seeing children mistreated in any way, or really anybody that is weaker, like the elderly or the homeless or the handicapped. To see mistreatment of fellow humans is one of the most painful things, one of the things that makes me most angry, and it makes me cry all the time, is seeing other people get hurt. Personally, what makes me angry is when I am misunderstood, falsely accused, or unfairly judged. And that's kind of on me, because as my husband puts it, I need to be decisive about something. And that is, as I'm involved in social media, and in my involvement with social media, if you've seen my where I have been video that I did a week and a half ago, then you'll know that I have a problem when it comes to things that people have said and done to me that have triggered me. So what makes me angry to focus on that specific question is when I am misunderstood. And that really upsets me, because I have this strong tendency to want to set all matters right. But I'm learning at 60 years of age that the more I try to fix something, the more I end up breaking it. So I have to learn to let things go. So that's not a plea for help or anything along that line. That's just what makes me angry, is when people have the wrong assumptions about me and then therefore judge me, or if I get the cold shoulder. I'm just extremely sensitive. Actually, far too sensitive. Nobody should be as sensitive as I am. It's ridiculous, and I admit it. So that's what makes me angry, is to be misunderstood. All right, getting back to a fun question. My favorite book to read, that would be Little Women. I have read that countless times. It's a comfort read to me. I've seen all iterations of the movies that have come out, but the first one, the black and white one, is my absolute favorite. So that was by Louisa May Alcott, for those that are unfamiliar with it. The last movie that I've seen would be Jurassic World. In 2015, I went to the Randolph Theater. I found it to be a great disappointment. I was bored within 30 minutes, and I was bored the whole way through. Jurassic Park is one of my favorite films. Definitely not my favorite, but one of my favorite films. And, I have what's called an eidetic memory. So if I see it or I hear it, I remember it. So when I was watching Jurassic World, I just could not help but compare it to the original movie. So I personally found it to be a disappointment. But that is indeed the last movie I saw. I don't know why my drills keep flipping upside down. This is annoying. Okay, and I hope that you can still see me, because I can't see what my iPad is showing because I have it above this. If I knew more about timing, I would use my camera, or if I knew more about editing on the laptop. But anyway, let's move on. What did I want to be when I was small? A child. What did I want to be when I was a child? I wanted to be a child psychologist to help children who were victims of trauma, because I am a victim of childhood trauma and I never got any help until I became an adult. And I think children need somebody to help them. So as a child, as a victim, I just wanted to help other children. So every book I read, which was hundreds of books, was geared towards, about, or surrounded with information about helping children. And that's when I was a child. The other thing that I would have loved to have been was a teacher. Again, to be around children. So I did go to college, but then I went and got married and decided to have a family. So college I just left and never went back. But that's what I wanted to be when I was growing up. Let's see. Who is my favorite author? I wrote this question down, but I didn't write any answers down. So I thought I would tell you my most read authors, because there's far too many to name. My most read authors are James Patterson, Catherine Coulter, and J.D. Robb. Those are my most read authors. But they're not really my favorite authors because there's too many other good ones out there, like Iris Johansen, Laurie Foster, Emma Talon. Any author who writes Amish fiction is a favorite of mine. There's just too many to name. And you got to remember, I read dozens of books every month, so I'm falling in love with too many books. I can tell you a new favorite, if you'll let me, and that would be Kristen Hanna. And I want to read everything that she wrote. And I think I've read 6 or 7 so far. I just discovered her mid-year last year. So I've got some catching up to do, but it's a sheer pleasure to read anything that Kristen Hanna writes. And these are books like Fly Away, Firefly, I think. Fly Away, Firefly, The Nightingale. Goodness gracious. One book that's not even out yet that I read months ago. It'll be out in a month or two. I can't name them, but Kristen Hanna would be a favorite. Okay. 2 pet peeves. That's a question I saw when I was thinking about questions to ask. I don't know that I have a pet peeve. I think one pet peeve is people that chew with their mouth open. Well, people that talk with food in their mouth. But then I had a lot of children and I have grandchildren, so you kind of have to forgive that. Another pet peeve is, I don't know. I'm such a people person and forgiving person that I don't really have too many issues with people other than the ones that I named, So I wrote that down thinking that I would come up with an answer for it, but I really can't. Here's a cute question. How many pillows do you sleep with? Well, my husband and I share a body pillow, which goes lengthwise at the top of our bed. And I sleep with 2 pillows on top of that, whereas hubby sleeps with 1 pillow. So he sleeps with 1 pillow on the body pillow. So I sleep with 3 pillows. I thought that was a fun question because some of these answers that I'm given or discussion, things that I'm bringing into this discussion have a serious nature. So I thought I would throw in some fun ones intermittently. Okay, the tallest building that I've ever been to, and that would be the Sears Tower in Chicago, which is now called the Willis Tower, but that's the tallest building I've ever been to. I've been there twice, and I'm not afraid of heights, so that's the tallest building. I've been to some tall buildings in New York and in Chicago, and in Boston, but Sears Tower would be the tallest. How often do I buy clothes? Well, as I mentioned earlier, weight is a problem because I can't eat. So every few months I have to go down a size. So I started off at 4X and now I am at large, large, extra large, depending on if it's women, if it's plus size or regular women's. But I'm pretty much ready to go down another size. So when when I just don't look decent in what I have, I will buy more. I do need more dresses because I do attend my Kingdom Hall meetings on Zoom and my dresses are just too big. So dresses I think are going to get bought this month, at least 3 or 4. So I buy clothes based on my need to have things that are not hanging off of me. Okay. What is the last book I read? The last book I read is Special Ops Seduction by Megan Crane. It's the 5th book in the Alaska Force series. I had it from Berkeley. It's kind of considered a blog tour, but they don't provide materials like most blog tour companies, but that's the last book that I read. The next book I am reading is the 5th book in the Bridgerton series. I have 4 books or 5 books left in that series, plus the special epilogues. And then I have, my phone is here. I can tell you what I have coming up because I am a spreadsheet fanatic. Robin's 2021 spreadsheet. My next book is To Sir Philip with Love. Then I have No Holding Back by Laurie Foster. I mentioned that she's one of my favorite authors. And then my next few books will be When He Was Wicked, It's in His Kiss, On His Way to the Wedding, and the Bridgertons Happily Ever After. And then after that, I'll be reading The Perfect Guest by Emma Rao. And then The Other Mother by M.M. Chouinard, Before She Wakes by Ed James, The Girl from the Channel Islands, that's by Jenny LaCote, and then Someone to Trust by Patricia Davids. That's my lineup. Okay. Am I a clean or messy person? I would say that I am a clean person in the sense that I am insanely organized. I have close to 200 jigsaw puzzles, so they are very neatly on a huge bookshelf that fills one of the walls in my bedroom. I have a massive size bedroom, so buying a massive size bookshelf to accommodate all of those jigsaw puzzles was very easy to do. My planners and my planner supplies, I have a shelf for that. Very, very organized. My coloring supplies take 2 shelves. Again, very, very organized. My bed gets made every day. There's never a day you're going to walk in my house and see an unmade bed. One thing I never do, to my husband's consternation, is put away my laundry. Now, he does most of the chores because of my disabilities, but he does not put away my laundry, and neither do I. But they just sit in my walker because I'm stuck in the house and I'm not using my rollator walker to go out places. So it holds my clean laundry. That is about my only thing that I'm not up on. My kitchen's always clean. My things are always organized. Currently, however, my desk is messy. I will say that because I've been working on my diamond painting on this card table, so I haven't been working on my desk. And that's very unusual for my desk to be messy, so I think I'll just straighten that up today, because that's a weird thing. Even hubby wanted to know why my desk is messy, and this is my office, but he puts my mail in here for me, and he was curious because it's really weird for my desk to be messy. So that answers that. Place these drills and peek over at my notes and see what I want to talk about next. That would be, I love this one. Glass half full or glass half empty? Most definitely a glass half full person. I have always been very optimistic. I don't care how dark the day is, I'm optimistic. How does that play into my bipolar disorder and my triggers? It doesn't make any sense because I'm still always optimistic. Yes, I'm sad. Yes, I do a lot of crying and a lot of sleeping, but I've never been a pessimistic person. So always glass half full. Okay, I'm done with these drills. Oh, how about this question? What is my race or my heritage? I thought I would answer this question because African Americans have gone through a lot of name changes, and it's been settled that the most politically correct term is African Americans. But I'm other, okay? My great-great-grandparents were Caucasian, okay? And then they married into the Native American race, but the Indians that were living in Canada. And then the marriage lines came down to Barbados. So there's 0 African in me in any of my line, going back from grandparents to great-grandparents to great-great-grandparents. And on my husband's side, yes, his parents have African in them, so my children are African American, but I technically do not consider myself African American. I am basically other. If you look at my great-great-grandfather, I can share his picture. I mean, he's from Syria. My grandfather, my mother's father, was Jewish. And so, yeah, so my race and heritage is rather confusing. Maybe I should get some drills out. How about that? Let's see, 15. Let's go to 15. I'm using baggies for this particular diamond painting. I switched between baggies and Tic Tac containers. So depending on the size of the painting and how many drills, I will just alternate both of those systems. Okay, my favorite thing to say. My favorite thing to say is not, I don't know if I say it a lot, but I certainly live by it, is I am never bored. Never. There are so many things to do and so many ways to fill my time. And this was as a child. I read all the time. And now I have other hobbies. So I guess my favorite thing to say is I could never ever be bored. You'll never see me idle. And actually, I am so busy that I have to binge watch my favorite shows because they pile up on my DVR because I don't even have time to watch TV. So that's my favorite thing to say is boredom does not exist. And the funny thing is, before COVID, I pretty much only went out to go to the doctor. And if I wasn't going to the doctor, I never left my house. But yet I never achieved boredom. And I don't think I ever will. So that's a fun thing about myself that I like to admit. I think I talked about my hobbies because my next question I wrote down is, do I collect anything? And yeah, I collect puzzles, planner supplies, coloring books, pencils, markers, you name it. Pens. Oh my gosh, I have millions of pens. I love pens, gel pens mainly. Yeah, that's my collections. Introvert or extrovert? I already mentioned that in the beginning when I talked about meeting my husband. Most definitely an introvert. I think with the advent of social media, I get to come out of my shell a lot. But put me in a crowd, even at the Kingdom Hall where everybody is wonderful and kind and beautiful families, I'm extremely quiet when I get in public. Even if I'm with my family, and that with COVID hasn't been for quite some time, and I say my family in the sense of my siblings, I'm very quiet. And like if I were to do a video or audio chat with my sisters, the most frequent thing said is, huh, Robin, we can't hear you, because I'm extremely reticent and soft-spoken, even with people that I know and love. So most definitely an introvert. Oh, I love this question. Yes, I cheated and got some questions online because I didn't know if I could do this. Favorite teacher at school and why? My favorite teacher was Mrs. Smith, who taught office practice. I had office practice 1 and 2, and I also had shorthand. And I loved it. I loved the brain, and I loved to learn. So learning about how to be a secretary led me to being a legal and an administrative secretary. I loved office practice. I loved Mrs. Smith. She was gentle. She was kind. She was like almost in her 60s at that point when I was in high school, but she was my favorite teacher. Let's see. What was my first job? What was most people's first job? I'd love you guys to tell me that in the comments. My first job was McDonald's. Yes, indeed it was. I worked there at, I think it was Woodlawn Mall in Schaumburg, Illinois. That was when I was 16 years old. My last job was at Chubb & Son, which at that time was owned by Cigna, who is now owned by New York Life. And I only know who they're owned by because they still pay me, and they've been paying me for 30 years almost. Because I got injured on the job. That was my last job, and I miss working so much because I tend to take a professional edge towards anything that I do. I'm an erudite, or I am erudite, so I love knowledge. I love books. I love learning. I love technology. I am a techno geek in the biggest way possible. Well, not really, because if I was really in the biggest way possible, I'd know how to edit on my laptop. But anyway, so yeah, my first and last jobs were, first was McDonald's, the last one was Chubb & Son. Let's see. Oh, am I related to anybody famous? Okay. My maiden name is Rowling, Rowling. And that means that J.K. Rowling, and yes, I know what she's been saying in social media, but it has nothing to do with me. Well, she is a distant relative. My husband proved it with his ancestry research. But there's something interesting about the name Rowling. I think there's like 8 in the world. And when you dig into our heritage, as I mentioned earlier in the conversation, I am distantly related to her. Will I ever get in touch with her? Never, ever in a day. I just have no interest. Never, ever thought no. But yeah, that's my only distantly famous relation. Getting to the end of my questions, and I have about 13 more minutes. If I could change anything about myself, what would that be? I think I think there's probably several things I would change about myself. And I'm going to say this carefully, because I don't want people to have a wrong opinion of me. But I don't really like myself. I never have. My self-esteem as a child has always been really, really bad. And a lot of that stems from the great abuses that I dealt with during my formative years. So I would change a lot about myself. Some of the things that I would change would be not caring what other people think of me, and not being so sensitive, not being afraid to state my opinion without fear of what other people would think, which is the same as not worrying about what people think of me. I think I would like to be more friendly in person when I'm around my family and my friends at the Kingdom Hall. I mean, even when we do Zoom, I'm pretty much the quietest one, before and after the meetings. I'd like to be a better person. I would love to have changed the way that I mothered, because I've dealt with mental health and physical health issues for years. I mean, I've had like over 30 surgeries. I think I failed as a mom. And I think if I could change anything, it would have been to be healthy mentally and physically, and to have given my kids more. Not more materially, but more emotionally and more stability. I would have changed. I would like to change that. Anything else? I think I'd also like to stop trying to be the fixer. Like when something goes wrong, I feel like I'm responsible for it. Even when it has nothing to do with me, I just want everything to be right. So I think I would like to stop worrying about things to the degree that I feel like I could change something, that some things just can't be changed. Like, for example, some people are not going to like me, and that's that. So I need to stop caring so much about some of the things that are really messed up. And, so those are all personality things. I would say, I used to say I would love to change my weight and my appearance, but my esophagus has changed that, so I don't have to put that on the list anymore. So I guess those are the things that I would change about myself. Okay, this is a good one. What is the kitchen appliance that I use every day? I bet the majority of you will say that this is your most used appliance. And for me, that is the coffee pot. Every day. Yep. Cup of coffee. No, I haven't had it yet. Because when I woke up, I'm like, make the video now, Robin, or you won't make it. So, gotta have my coffee. My second most used appliance when I am able to cook is my crock pot. And I do plan on buying an Instapot sometime this week, so that might be my most enjoyable appliance because I want to learn a bunch of new recipes. Let's see. Strongest of my five senses. The strongest of my five senses would definitely be hearing. And I think the old adage is true that when you lose one sense, or one sense is weaker, your other senses sharpen. See, I'm legally blind, and I also have glaucoma, so my hearing stepped up. So I can hear anything, and I don't care if you're whispering, I'm going to hear it. So I think hearing is definitely my strongest sense. So that is all that I wrote down. I told you about what I'm going to be reading. I have a couple more minutes. Let's talk about TV shows, because the fall season, as broken as it is with the pandemic, is upon us. So I'll spend 5 minutes talking about my TV shows, and then I will wrap it up. And that way I get at least close to an hour, if not quite an hour. My favorite TV shows, in no particular order, would be The Good Doctor, Chicago Med, Chicago Fire, A Million Little Things, which kind of, I don't know how to say this. It kind of annoys me because nobody's life is ever good for more than 5 minutes. So I don't know how I feel about watching it this season. I love Grey's Anatomy and Station 19. Station 19, I could take it or leave it. I like New Amsterdam. I don't know if it's coming back on this year. Let's see. Oh, I fell in love with FBI and FBI Most Wanted late in the game, so I binge watched a couple of those. I binge watched those. Let's see. Anything else that I like? Law and Order Special Victims Unit. I used to love Law and Order Criminal Intent. That would have been my favorite of all the 3 Law and Order shows. I do love, what's the show on Friday nights with the family of police officers? I'm drawing a blank. But I love that show. I think that's it. But like I said earlier, because of my busy schedule that I have thrust upon my own self, I don't have time to watch these shows, so I will binge watch them. Oh, I can tell you about a show that's not on a network that I absolutely love, and I am currently halfway through season 12, even though season 14 started, I obviously won't be watching it for quite some time. And that's Murdoch Mysteries, which I am getting on Acorn through Amazon Prime. I watched that show for years and then I didn't watch it. So the last couple weeks or a few weeks, I've been catching up from season 10. So now I'm midway through season 12. Another show that I like that I'm way behind on, but I won't watch it until I'm done with Murdoch Mysteries, is Heartland. I really like that, and I think I made it to season 11. So I do have a couple of seasons to catch up on Heartland, but like I said, I'm too busy doing my own thing and trying to catch up with Murdoch Mysteries. And the other show that I found at the end of the day, there was 2 shows that I found. One is All Rise, and the other one is about the man who was wrongly convicted and imprisoned. I binge watched it about 3 weeks ago. I can't remember the name of it, but I like that show, and I probably will continue to watch that. And that's my favorite shows. So it has been quite an hour, but I hope Mrs. Coffee will accept this video. As I mentioned, I will leave it in the description box below, her link, her channel link. And I hope that you've learned a little bit about me and that you'll see more of me on this channel. So that's about it. So I'm going to shut this off and say thank you very much. Bye-bye.